Soul Center. That's what I was feeling. I was already feeling. There was a moment, and I don't know if Paul heard me. Rick was singing, and I just could feel the energy. You guys are energized today. Let me hear it. Every now and then we get a little rowdy. We wake up the energy. The God energy is not like. Okay, so many of you may have seen the commercial. It was for a movie a while ago, and it was a sloth pictured working at the DMV. That's not how the God energy works. You know, it may outpicture in the sloth like that, but the vibration of cells is so fast that we cannot see them with the human eye. So we wake that energy up sometimes when I come in. So we have a little bit of it with our feet, and we make a little noise. But sometimes it's calm, whatever it's doing, but good morning, Soul Center. Good morning. So I'm really glad to be with you and to just to be present with you on today. I really feel more than ever, as many times as you guys have honored me with the opportunity to come. Today I was really aware that I get to bring with me a lot of things. And so in the announcements, you already heard that Reverend Arlene is going to be here next week. And I wouldn't miss it if I were you. She's been one of my teachers. I was with her this morning as we were holding our early morning The Way of Meditation service. I was with her yesterday as we were doing our sacred service Saturday at Agape. She's a wonderful teacher. She's incredibly dedicated to transforming the lives of individuals, adults, and teens. So I'm bringing greetings from Reverend Arlene. This morning, Reverend Coco Stewart, who's been here with you before, she says hello. So I'm bringing a little bit of Reverend, I'll come down here. A little bit of Reverend Coco with me. I'm bringing, of course, Reverend Kathleen, who one day I know will come in here, but she is, my teacher and the director of the Practitioner Corps. And of course, I'm bringing greetings from Reverend Dr. Michael Bernard Beckwith, who always holds you guys in love and appreciates how what we are able to do as a local community is expanding in unique and individual ways without someone having to shepherd and usher over you and tell you how it's supposed to be. This community has decided that it shall exist. Yes. And when it decided that it shall exist, it decided that it would be a part of Agape, and you guys are that. So whether you realize it or not, you're a part of the Agape community, yes. You're a part of the Agape family, and it's a very necessary extension of something that may be locally based in Culver City, California, but is able to spread out around the world because people have said yes to how they're going to allow it to express, yes. Because it doesn't only exist at Agape, it doesn't only exist through Reverend Michael, it doesn't only express through the Agape licensed spiritual practitioners. You have a powerful practitioner in Sandy that's here today, and the presence is expressing powerfully through them. Mike and Bridget had a wonderful experience last week, and that's how the divine expressed itself because they showed up and they were of service to our youth and family. Yes. And oh buddy, our beloved Beth, right? Yes. So the divine has outpictured itself in this magical, wonderful, loving, sweet presence. And that presence has got a journey that it's on right now. We're going to talk about that as well because Beth is right here, right now with us, in our hearts, on our minds. And the radiant energy of that life is shining here, and it is in our children wherever they are because Beth has seeded into their lives. So there's a lot that's going to happen in this service. We're going to do a whole lot in a little bit of time. I hope you're ready. Our theme for today that you guys have been embracing all month has been embracing the journey. And early in the week, Jessica and Patricia do everything they can to get the topic out of me so they can get into your newsletter and coordinate with the graphic arts person. And for the first time, I think, in like the year that we've been doing this dance together, it didn't happen. And I was being with Spirit and doing what I was doing, and they were being with Spirit and doing what they were doing, and they were just like, they trust me, and I'm so glad. Because I'm at the same time doing my dance with Spirit and trusting Spirit and leaning in, and I would not have known back then that today I needed a couple of more seeds. You ever create something, if you've ever been an artist or a painter or a musician, or maybe you've sewed something together, or maybe you've just done a paper. All of us have probably done a paper in school, and you just needed a little more time and just a couple more touches and a few more edits. And when you didn't get it and you submitted it and you got it back, you see all the things. See, if I had had a little more time, I would have caught that. We wouldn't even be talking about this. So like, Miss Johnson, if you had just given me a little more time. And then they tell you, how many TV shows did you watch last week? Or, how many times were you playing? Or how many phone calls were you on with your sweetheart that you just didn't get that extra time that you had? So there's a lot of different ways that happens. And so it was revealed to me what our topic would be. And it just kind of landed on me in a way that just was exactly where I am also. Which is release the past, release the past, and the other half of it is coming back to me right now. Live the future now. Release the past, live the future now. Now there's a lot in that title about time, and so what we always want to do is start with the basic principles that we teach from, and an awareness that even though I'm talking in tenses, time, my friends, does not exist. Make sure you really understand that. It is really hard to embrace that idea that time doesn't exist. And I'll break it down for you, and tomorrow you'll be telling other people time doesn't exist. I'm going to be there when I'm going to be... No, that's not what you're going to do. But what you're going to do is your relationship to life is about to change right now. Because so many of us have been told that at a certain point, we're old. When we were young, at a certain point, somebody told us we were too young. At another point, there are some times when they tell us it's too early, it's too soon. At another time, someone might say, oh, you're right on time. So there are all of these things that happen, but our perspective of it is what matters. Because sometimes our moments where we feel like we're late, they're telling us, oh, no, you're right on time. Well, because they were running late, and they might have been a little late. If you had shown up on time, that would have been too early because where they were. And yet, we call this thing time. Now, we know what time is made of, right? It's just a decision. We decided that it was easier to live in a world where we could measure things. And that's great, except for when that becomes your master. Right? So you have tools, and you have things that you utilize that help you get through the day. But nobody is simply saying, I'm going on shovel time, and my shovel is my guide and my compass, and whatever my shovel tells me to do, that's what I'm going to do. But sometimes that's how we relate to time. Because we live in a universe, and we spin on a planet, and we travel around the sun. And even though we don't see them very often, we have company in the universe on other planets, and those planets are racing around this same sun in our galaxy. And within our galaxy, there are all kinds of other things happening. But remember, that's the only reason we have time. The sun doesn't ever actually set, and it actually never rises. It just hits the horizon, and it seems to come up. But from our perspective as this little being on this huge ball moving through space, it looks like it's rising. But we don't live according to the rising and the setting of that sun. Not in principle, but our behaviors, it's easier to do things during the day than it is to do them at night. But some things do better at night than in the day. The same thing goes with time and years. There are some of us who are better at things now in our 40s or 50s or 60s than we ever were in our teens and our 20s. And there are some things that were better for us to do at a certain time in life and then in other times of life. And yet we put people out to pasture, or we tell them that it's time for them to go out of the door and to go out on their own, and they're not yet prepared. What better way to be aware of someone or something's preparedness than to actually allow them to experience it? So we have things like we've learned in our modern society about intellectual and emotional maturity. There are some levels that we develop and that we grow and that we don't. And so you can be 40 years old, but you can have the maturity of a 13-year-old. You don't know any of those people? Okay, I've met a few, maybe it's just me. There are just some 40-year-old people that sometimes have the maturity of a 7-year-old. I want it now! Just me? Okay. And then there are some people, some of you know these young people. I've met them. I have friends that are, like right now we're in graduation season, right? There's all of these people that are graduating from colleges and universities or elementary. Little kids have more graduations than I'd ever imagined before. It's like, they make a 2'6" cap and gown now? It's like, okay, that works, I suppose. And it's just really sweet and really beautiful that we're celebrating all of these achievements now, right? So we're recognizing that. But the reality is, there are still some people who, when they're really young, they were ready. Yeah. You know that some of these kids, when they show up, the parents are even just like, I didn't do anything. She came in the world like that. She was already ready. You know, it's like, there are kids you never have to tell them to do anything. Just the way they gravitate towards cleaning their room or taking care of their assignments or whatever. Or just kindness and generosity. Some kids, you see all the video in the information age that we live in, the connection through the social media just allows us to connect to the most sweetest story every day. It's always the most sweetest story of like the little kid that has its last piece and the other little kid asks for it and it's you want my last one? Here. The kid has no resistance. There are have you guys seen, am I the only one? Have you guys seen kids like that? We live in a world where that is possible, and we also recognize that with everything going on in the world, so much of it is learned. We don't realize it. Our psychologists and psychiatrists are telling us, and sociologists will tell us, that these behavior patterns are learned before there's any language. Even before a child has language, when they're reaching up to you and you tell them no right now, they learn something. Now be gentle with yourselves. Don't suddenly convict yourself because every time a child reached up to you, you didn't say, okay, let's go. But it's a process. Because sometimes in life, isn't there a not now? And that has to be okay for a child to begin to process before it has language. Some of us as adults haven't learned the not now. You know, it's some of like Agape is the best place. I love it. I'm just very busy there quite often. And if you've ever been to Agape, you will get your hug quotient met. And so because I'm on service, I'm on staff at Agape, I move through there often and often. I'm walking very fast, and it never fails. Hey! And I've had to learn, I give the one finger, it's like, when I come back, or something. And then sometimes it's somebody where you know they're not going to take no or one finger for an answer, and I just have to, I put on my brakes, and I have a chute under every suit, and it just slows me down, and then I have a string, I pull the chute in, and I take off again. That would be a great outfit. I'm going to break that down. But either way, there's all of this movement and everything that's going on, and yet I'm aware that we can be, in some level, slaves to time. Women have a very challenging journey. I know it's Father's Day. I'll get to you guys in a minute. Women have a very challenging journey because everything about society has placed a clock on you, particularly when it comes to motherhood. And there are amazing stories, and yet there's still a biological thing that makes you feel like you have a clock ticking. Men have a clock too, whether they tell you or not. Just because they swim a little longer doesn't mean that they're not aware of the lines in time which somebody said they should have achieved something. You should have established yourself. You should have a reputation. You should be in your career. You should be clear. You look at somebody somebody like, actors are not always the best examples, but Danny Glover is someone who he didn't hit into his career until his late 40s. All those Lethal Weapon movies that really launched his career, he's in his late 40s. This happens in careers beyond the arts all the time. And yet, you graduate at this age, you go to the military at this age, you can smoke or drink at this age, you can do this at this age, you should have a baby by this age, you should have your first house by this age, you should have sold your first house and bought your second house, and then you should have a family home, you should not have a sports car at this age because it makes you look like this. We're back over to Father's Day now, right? But there's all of these different things that are based on time. And then there are the things from our lives that we are still caught up in from the past that we bring into today. So that's the challenging one, though, right? So much of time has to do with whether or not we can be here now. Sometimes now we're spending a lot of time with people and we have our cell phones, right? And so many of us are driven by these devices. And it's an alarm, it's a phone, it's our email, it's communication, it's FaceTime with the grandchildren, it's FaceTime with the great-grandchildren, it's a lot of things. And yet, how often can we just be with each other? You've seen some of these pictures, I've seen pictures online where people, when they have their dinner table, there's a bowl in the middle of the table with like 17 cell phones. And it's like during dinner and while we're together, the phones are in the bowl. And it's just because there's a compulsion. And we also have to figure out that balance. I won't go into that because I've had to take time off social media just because I know me. So how well do you know you and your compulsion? How often are we grabbing and checking and tweeting and texting and Instagramming versus connecting? How often are we just with each other? How often are we available even because of careers or jobs? I celebrate Father's Day. I'm so grateful for every father, for every person who's chosen to be a father. Because the one thing about men, and it's just an honest thing, is men have more of an opportunity to choose to say yes or no because women tend to still hold on to their children even when the fathers aren't there. And so we recognize that you also made a secondary decision because you didn't have someone growing within you for 9 months to develop an initial attachment. And there are still mothers who let go of that journey, and all should be accepted by the journey that they take. So this isn't a condemnation or necessarily even an approval on either side, but we recognize what is. And we accept, and here we go with the theme of the month, we embrace the actual journey. So earlier we were talking about Beth, and Patricia and I were just talking about the impact that's made on us as a community here at Soul Center. Someone who's been so vibrant and has been so much a part of everything that you do, and bringing our children in here after every service and shining a little glimmer of light and joy all the time, right? And now she's going through. Here's the thing. For eternity, there have always been challenges. This is the part that we just have to get. When we talk about embracing the journey, there is not a single moment in the history of humanity that's recorded where there wasn't some sort of war or some sort of conflict or something going on somewhere. If you look at the news and the media, they are trying to tell you, without literally saying it, that there's more war and violence going on in the world today than ever before. It's a bold-faced lie, and you wouldn't know it if you actually listened to the media. There's less war and less violence and even less crime in America than ever before. It may seem like it that there are all of these very stunning and very visceral things that they report, but that's what they decided to do with themselves. The media has decided that we are, if it bleeds, it leads culture. And so you have to decide, well, I've got enough blood of my own, I'm going to go get my information somewhere else. And you have to decide these types of things for yourself. And that's not a condemnation of the media. That's just the job. Like, I just don't necessarily want to work in the meat packing industry. Many of us enjoy meat and that's how we live, but that's just not where I want to work. And there are some very difficult conditions to process that the animal friends that we have on this planet go through so that we can eat. But that's just, hey, can you embrace the journey? Can you actually just accept things as they are and continue to recognize, now back to Beth, look, she's no less now than she was before any diagnosis or any situation. God is not any less now because we're going through a very wild time in the news media, a very wild time with regard to politics and everything. God is no less now than ever before. The analogy that I shared with Patricia was simply this. The sun never goes anywhere. The only reason we can't see it at times is, one, we've turned away from it. The only reason you can't see God in this situation is because you've turned away from God and identified more with the sickness, the war, the violence, the anger, the hate, or the feelings that are coming up with you that you haven't yet processed, or there's a density between you and the sun. Sometimes it's fog. Sometimes it's a storm. It's the rain. It's thunder and light. These are facts that you cannot deny. Now take these facts that we see in nature and light it up against your relationship with God. The only reason that you ever feel emotions, feeling can lie to you. They are not absolutely true. They tell you about an experience and what you're feeling. But that in and of themselves, their existence, sadness, anger, fear, loneliness, is not a word of truth. It is information that lets you know what you are experiencing, that you are being called to process, that you're being called to understand, because you're being called to realize that that is either the place or the thing that you're operating from, and now that you have an awareness of it, you can dissolve it. You can process it. You can heal it. You can reveal then the truth. You can reveal the God qualities within you. You can reveal the love that's within you. You can see the wholeness in Beth no matter what she might be feeling. That's what you're called to know.
Yes.
Right, Sandy? Every practitioner knows this, that you are doing spiritual malpractice every time you identify someone with the sickness, with the limited idea, identifying someone as poor, they're poor, identifying someone as broken. A friend of mine told me the other day that she was a broken woman. I was like, I never in my life had ever imagined this person as broken, but that's who she told me she was. And I was like, nope, we're not doing that. We're not doing none of that. We're not doing broken. We are not broken people. Look, my nephew, when he came into the world, sat in the palm of our hand. Pre-me, you've seen some of these amazing stories. They don't all grow up. They don't all have a long life. But the being that incarnates, every being that incarnates, whether the lifespan is 60 seconds, whether it's 60 years, is fulfilling the journey that they have come to live.
Yes.
You have to be able to embrace that aspect of the journey and not live in some other preconceived notion. This is hard work. This is not easy. It's meant to be hard. It's meant to be hard because you have to let go of something that seems very natural to attach yourself to. Look, if we all walked around like, I don't think I'll make it to 16. I don't think I'll make it to 21. We would be awful. That would just be a terrible place to live. I would not want to be there. But when we get a challenge, when something questions how we think the script should go. I'm not just talking about a bad movie. There's always bad movies. But there's a script that we think that life, in a way in which we think life should play out. We've been told, and this is not even getting caught up in the fairy tales that we get sold about whatever, whether it's Prince Charming or the American Dream or whatever it is. Let's not get caught up in that. We can be inspired by things. But let's be clear. There is a unique way that each and every person is called to exist in this world. As if you have a lawn, as much as you may try to get every blade of grass to do what you want it to do, it ain't gonna happen. The lawn just doesn't work that way. Now, human beings are quite more complicated than blades of grass. But the same thing is something that parents are trying to figure out. How do I allow my child to have all that they have need of and fulfill their journey uniquely, even when I know, when you make that decision, I know what that looks like. But we can't know. We can imagine, we've seen it happen before, but there are so many exceptions to the rule that we have to then question, is there a rule? Or is it just an idea?
Yes.
So we've got to release the past. And many of us, I imagine, like these two images dropped into my mind, well, three images dropped into my mind when I thought about letting go of the past. So we talk about relationships that we woulda, coulda, shoulda, or jobs woulda, coulda, shoulda, or places woulda, coulda, shoulda, or the meal that I shouldn't be, woulda, coulda, shoulda, extra pounds, woulda, coulda, shoulda, car accidents, everything that's back there, right? Things that have actually happened. Not what ifs. That's a whole nother can of crap. We're not doing the what ifs. The actual things that have happened. Many of us are right here in the room right now, but some of you have already, since I've been talking and I'm doing a good job, you have been thinking about something from the past. I need you here. That was a personal comment. But some of us are like this, right? We're holding on to the past. What I could have done for my children, what I could have done for my family, and we're like this. And we think we're Stretch Armstrong. Do you guys remember Stretch Armstrong? Or for some other people, Mr. Fantastic from the Fantastic Four. He was elastic and he could stretch. And we think, Rick, stand up for me. Rick, stand up for me. Just face that way. Come on, Rick, you gotta move faster, brother. I don't have that much time. Reach your hand out that way. We're the same. Like, don't ignore anything that makes you think that we're not the same person. That's my hand out there. Watch, it goes up. Come on, Rick. It goes up. It goes down. See how it works? All right. So now, some of us tried. Stay right there. Some of us tried to go over here. Desi, come up here for me, brother. And we're in this present moment. Stay right there. I said this about him. Now I'm saying it about Desi. Reach your arm out there, Desi. It goes up, it goes down. I did this already, right? So, but we can't get there. It's impossible. Scoot over that way for me. This is working out really well. We can't get there. We can only ever be here. We keep trying. Come with me, Desi. We keep trying, but we can't. Human beings, go ahead and sit down for me, guys. Human beings can only exist in the present. Now, the game that we've all seen, if we didn't do it, was when we played on the monkey bars in the park. It's the perfect example. You have the long ring, you have the sand pit. Many of us fell into it. That's what happens when you try to hold on too long. And you start on your journey. You grab hard, and you get to swing from here to the next. Now, down there is the future. And I'm right here holding on. If I don't let go of the past, I'm not going anywhere. This is a physical fact. It's an emotional experience. And then, if I'm not willing to let go of something, I cannot receive. Yeah. Hear me now. The thing that you want to hold on to, you will lose, as Jesus said in the Bible. That which you try to hold on to, you will lose. Only the thing that you give away will you ever keep. It sounds like a riddle, but it is not. It is a spiritual principle in action. If you are holding on tightly and unable to release, unable to receive something, you're more than likely to lose everything that you've already got. It can't grow that way. You can't flourish that way. Relationships, forget about it. Try to hold on to somebody too tight, they're going to fight, or it's going to destroy the both of you. You do the same thing with anything. When progress came along, the horse and the buggy, they were the thing to do. And then came along the car. And some of us missed the horse and buggy. We had a lot less smog back then. But the reality was progress is happening. The universe is always progressing. There's always something growing and expanding. I couldn't reach Desi because I was so busy connected to the past. But here's the thing. You have to live now